All right, let's get right into it. You know how they say no person is an island? Well, it turns out no conflict is either. Today, we're going to trace the shock waves from just one regional war and see how they're literally rippling across the entire globe, hitting everything from global security right down to what you pay at the pump.
And just so we're clear, this isn't some history lesson. We're looking at this as if it's all happening right now. Today, March 13th, 2026. Things are escalating, and they are escalating fast. So, the big question is, how did we even get here? I mean, how does one regional fight put the entire planet on high alert? That's what we're here to figure out. Let's start connecting the dots.
Okay, to understand this, we've got to start right at the heart of it all, the epicenter. This is where the missiles are flying and where more and more countries are getting sucked into this thing.
So things just went from bad to worse. We're talking large explosions rocking a major state-organized rally in Tehran. And what's really telling is that there were warnings this could happen, but the rally went on anyway. That just shows you how dug in, how absolutely resolute both sides are. Neither is backing down.
And the retaliation? It was immediate. 58, that's the number of people injured after an Iranian missile strike hit northern Israel. You can just imagine. The sirens there are apparently just blaring nonstop.
And this is exactly where you see it start to spill over. The U.S. is moving a 5,000-person Marine unit into the Persian Gulf. Then you've got Turkey, a NATO member, mind you, intercepting an Iranian missile in its own airspace. That triggered alarms at a huge NATO airbase. You see, the circle of who's involved is getting bigger by the minute.
But while all this military chess is happening, the human cost is just staggering. We're talking 800,000 people. That's how many have been forced from their homes in neighboring Lebanon. It's a humanitarian crisis getting worse by the day.
Okay, so we've seen the military fallout, but the ripples don't stop there. Now let's talk about the money, because these shockwaves are hitting the global economy, and you can feel them thousands of miles away.
Yeah, if you've been wondering why gas prices are suddenly through the roof, well, this is it. In just a couple of weeks, oil prices have jumped 40%. We're now looking at about $100 a barrel. For the global energy market, that is a massive shock.
So why the huge jump? Simple. The most important shipping lane for oil in the world, the Strait of Hormuz, it's pretty much closed for business. Add to that, Saudi Arabia just cut its own oil production by 20%. It's a perfect storm. The world's oil supply is getting squeezed hard.
And it's not just about oil, not by a long shot. Check out this number, 60. That's how many new trade investigations the U.S. launched today alone. We could be looking at a whole new chapter in global trade wars.
So you're probably asking, what is a Section 301 investigation? Well, think of it as a big lever the U.S. can pull when it thinks other countries aren't playing fair on trade. And pulling that lever 60 times at once, wow, that could totally scramble global supply chains and, you guessed it, lead to a bunch of new tariffs.
And this just shows you the impossible choices world leaders are facing right now. To try and calm down those crazy oil prices, the U.S. actually paused some sanctions on Russian oil. But immediately, Ukraine's President Zelensky called it a wrong decision, saying it could hand Moscow an extra $10 billion. It's a total high-wire act with no easy answers.
All right, so we've got military tension, we've got economic chaos. What about the diplomacy? Well, with this much pressure, even the strongest alliances are starting to show some cracks.
So, you get this report that U.S. President Trump told other world leaders Iran is about to surrender. That's a very confident take. It suggests that from his perspective, the plan is working. But here's the thing, not everybody's buying it.
And this is where it gets really interesting. On one hand, you have the U.S. saying victory is near. On the other hand, you have America's closest allies in the G7 basically saying, hold on, we're getting uneasy here. They're asking for a real plan to end the war. That's not just a disagreement, that's a major crack in the alliance.
And it's not just the West. Other big players are making their own moves. China just upped its defense budget and started using much tougher language on Taiwan. And India? India's on the phone with Iran trying to get its 28 cargo ships out of the hot zone. See, everyone is looking out for themselves and rethinking their strategies.
You know, when a crisis this big hits, it takes up all the oxygen in the room. It's all anyone can talk about. But it's so important to remember, other things are still happening all around the world.
I mean, just today, the U.S. military confirmed a tragic plane crash in Iraq that had nothing to do with the conflict. Back home, the U.S. is dealing with insane weather, everything from a polar vortex to a heat dome. And in India, there's a huge debate happening in their Supreme Court about paid menstrual leave. Life goes on, right? The world is a complicated place. Okay, so we've looked at the military, the economy, the diplomacy, and life going on elsewhere. What does it all add up to? Let's connect the last few dots and zoom out to see the big picture.
It all started with one single flashpoint, right? Explosions at a rally. But look at the chain reaction. That one event led to military deployments, which spiked oil prices, which strained old alliances. It's a direct line from a regional fight to a full-blown global crisis.
And if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this. Our world is so connected. An event over there impacts your gas prices over here. It affects trade, security, everything. Nothing happens in a vacuum anymore. No part of our world is truly isolated.
Which really makes you wonder, doesn't it? If a fight in one corner of the globe can instantly mess with your wallet and your country's security, can we even call any conflict local anymore? Something to think about.